Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Nmap. If you're surfing around the internet and you stumbled across this particular video is a very basic introduction to Nmap that I used for my Introduction to TCP/IP Networks class at Denver University. So welcome. Do appreciate you being here tonight. For my students, tonight we're going to cover very basic installation and usage of Nmap on a Windows-based system and on a Linux-based computer system. We're going to be running scans against local systems, local hosts, against target systems, as you can see, my wonderful web system that I have here, and against my Linksys router. This will give you guys a variety of different options on how you can run scans. So first and foremost, how do we install Nmap? Well, on Windows systems, you can go to nmap.org to the download.html page, and it'll have all the wonderful download instructions you need for most any version that you want, including Windows. So today, we've actually installed on this particular Vista system Nmap 453 setup.exe and executed it. Cool thing about this particular executable is it installs Nmap, everything you need, including the WinPCAP drivers should you need them, and it also includes Nmap, which is a nice GUI front end for Windows users. On my Linux system, I simply installed Nmap by running the simple command apt-get install nmap. I've got the most up-to-date version for this particular repository, so it's not going to install anything. If you were running Linux as a Debian variety, such as Ubuntu, which I strongly recommend for learning Linux, it would have gone and installed it for you. Once it's installed, you can just type nmap from the command line, and it'll kick out and it'll show you all the wonderful, cool options you can put associated with running Nmap. Variety of different scans. We can run SYN scans, full connection scans, ACK scans, Windows scans, and Maimon scans, UDP scans, Xmas tree scans, you name it. There's a whole bunch of different possible scans that you can run. We can also run bad sum scans, which are cool because a lot of intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems don't check the headers on TCP/IP, but the end system will, so it's good to see if it's actually getting through to a real system or if it's getting intercepted possibly someplace in between with an intrusion prevention system, maybe even a proxy. But Nmap is an incredibly powerful tool that every single security and network professional should get to know and love. So let's start a very basic scan. The first thing we're going to scan is my Linksys wireless router. So to get that to work, I type nmap, not just map, nmap. Then I type in the target IP address I wish to scan, 192.168.1.1. Now you could just as easily run an Nmap scan against a host name, like Nmap domain controller, Nmap router 1, or possibly even nmap.yahoo.com. It's up to you. However, I'm running against this IP address for my wireless router that is used just for beating up, like running Nmap scans and Nessus scans and all kinds of wonderful attacks against it. Cool thing about newer versions of Nmap is if you hit the space bar or any key, it'll show you the percent completion, so you have an idea how far along your scan is. Also, if I were to rerun this scan, I can increase the verbosity associated with this particular scan. How much information is Nmap giving back to me about different ports that are open or ports that are closed? By hitting the V key. I can hit Shift V and I can decrease the verbosity associated with the Nmap scan. So it's got some really outstanding runtime interaction options available to you if you choose to run it on a Linux-based system. So really cool stuff, and once this particular scan completes, you will see that we've got a couple of closed ports and we have some open ports. My FTP data and FTP control ports are closed on this wireless router, as is Telnet. However, HTTP and PPTP is open, as you would fully expect with your general run-of-the-mill Linksys router. Now this Linksys router has a very bad habit of crashing, so we don't want to get too nasty with it because its whole life is to get hacked, but we want to keep it up and running just a little bit longer. So now let's jump over to Windows and let's take a look-see at the Nmap GUI. Close the website for installing Nmap. Once you have installed Nmap, you get this wonderful creepy eye on your desktop. That's the Nmap Zenmap GUI. Double-click that and you get the Nmap Zenmap GUI. If you're using Vista like me in this particular situation, you wait for the rest of your life for the GUI to open because Vista is horribly slow. But I'm not complaining because it's just one of many systems we can play with. The GUI is really cool in this particular instantiation because it actually shows us the command line options associated with our scan. So let's actually put in a target, 192.168.1.1. And we're going to do an intense scan. It's the throttling or the timing associated with it is going to be very aggressive because we're horribly, horribly impatient, product of Generation X. We click scan, and Nmap's going to give us some information here in a second, saying that it's going to start. It's going to try and resolve the address. It starts the ARP scan. Now this is interesting. If you're scanning on a local subnet, it's always going to do an ARP ping first. You can actually shut off pings by doing -P0, and it will not ping the system. However, it will still run the ARP requests. So to shut those off, you have to do the -P0 and send IP as well to make sure that you're actually sending full packets to that particular computer. So that is how you would run Nmap on your local system to scan another system on your network. Now, you may have a situation where you have a completely different IP address than I do. I can bring up a command prompt on my Linux system, and if I zoom in here, Nmap is also on the command line for the Windows system. So a lot of the cool options that you can do from the command line on Linux, you can also do in Windows. So good stuff. However, we want to figure out what my IP address is. We can do ipconfig, and you can see that my IP address is 192.168.1.104. My default gateway is 192.168.1.1. Good system to scan. If you can't scan your local system, as some installations of Nmap do complain about, you can run it against your gateway. Just bear in mind that Nmap does occasionally crash things, so do be careful. So to recap, we just ran the default Nmap scan, which was using timing of aggressive. The -A denotes that we're actually going to run full version scanning. We want verbosity with 1V, and here's the IP address we wish to scan. It is now complete with the majority of the scan. It found that the open port was 1732, which is the PPTP port, and port 80 was open, which was our web server. And the scanning initialization script is going to run quite a bit because it takes a long time. So let's jump over and let's scan some other systems while this one is running. Let's scan my web system. My web system is a wonderful little system that has a firewall up and running. It's only running a web service. I've got a variety of cool things like Hack Me Books, Hack Me Casino, a couple of other really, really incredibly vulnerable web pages on it just for messing around, hence the hideous green background. I ran the ipconfig command, and it tells me that the IP address of the system is 192.168.1.1. So let's do an Nmap scan of this system. But let's use Ubuntu. So we'll zoom in, and we'll do Nmap 192.168.1.1, and we'll see what ports are open. Now, my system does not really respond to much, because it's got the Windows default firewall up and running. However, we do expect port 80 to be open. However, I'm extremely impatient, and I just want to know for a fact if port 80 is open or not. Because I'm impatient, and it's only 36% of the way done, 44% of the way done, I'm going to hit Control-C, and I'm going to kill that particular scan. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do -p80, which means I'm only going to scan and see if port 80 is open on that particular computer system. Oops, 101. We wait for it. We wait for it. Oh, it's trying to ping the host. Let's actually do a capital P0 and see if we got port 80 on that computer open. There we go. Port 80 is open, and the MAC address identifies this particular computer system as running in VMware, which so correctly it is doing. So you can run just a default port scan on a variety of different ports, and you can pick specific ports that you wish to scan for. You can also just do port 80 and port 22. Oops. So there's a bunch of different options available to you to check which ports are available on your system. You can also do IP address ranges by using -1 through 101, and it'll attempt to scan all of those IP addresses within that range. So I hope this video was helpful for you, help you along with the lab assignments for this particular week. Next week, we're going to get started with HPing, eventually working our way up onto SCAPI. However, my next video, I believe, will be passive client attacks. So web servers connecting to web clients connecting to evil web servers and getting owned. Thank you very much. I do appreciate your time this evening, and have a great